should get started.
Hey guys, it's Lavetta.
And it's Miriam.
And this is the Notorious Women Podcast, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
Yes,
and
indeed.
we are being silly as always before we get on mic, or at least loop you guys in. But
yeah,
I think that I'm doing pretty good other than hitting my head. I was telling Miriam before we got on.
Yeah. You want to talk about how you did that?
I went to roller skating because I was trying to be cool because I'm never cool. And I was trying to blow off some steam. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
And
No, you are.
she's so sweet. And I'm a little rusty, so I was a little wobbly, but then I got my sea legs and I was like, this is great. And I don't know what happened. And I slipped and bam, hit the back of my head. It went pop. And I bounced back up, thank God. And I was so pissed because, of course, being an adult, you have to adult. So I sat down.
Yeah.
And they got me some ice and I drank water and I had to sit out the rest of the evening. But I was having so much fun because roller skating is so much fun.
I'm so sad that happened. I took a very similar dive ice skating, but I went forward.
What happened? Did you hit your head or?
I didn't hit my head.
Thank
sort
God.
of got up and then kind of kept going. And I thought, I think I'm too old to keep going. But when this happens, your body goes in a little bit of shock.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that I can see why you're like, no, I adulted and sat down, because it would be like, didn't you want to sit down? Probably not.
How did you fall? Did you fall on your hands?
I don't even know. Like
you don't remember?
I just splat. I was down. All I remember was being down, and then being like, okay, I have to get back up again, and then Sal was like, are you okay? And I was like, honestly, I'm not going to know till tomorrow. Right now, I feel fine. But
that's, what? Honestly, that is how I didn't feel fine. Obviously, I was like, oh, I hit my head. But it's not one of those things where it was like, oh, my God, like, I really, really hurt myself. It's like, no, I hit my head. Like, of course, I got to sit down.
Right. I'm going to take the knowledge of the fact that I hit my head, which was like, good on you, girl.
Yeah, it's not it definitely wasn't one of those things where you like, I mean, I would have preferred to have fallen forward and maybe on my knees and I just skinned my knee a little bit. That would have been more preferable.
Hobble around for a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like been like, oh, I got to kind of sit this out, but like, let me put some aloe vera gel on it. And like, but with your head, you never know. Like we've talked off mic, like I didn't go to the doctor because I'm in Florida and I don't currently have health insurance. It's supposed to kick in at the end of the month. Also, I just don't want to go to an ER in Florida because it's fucking Florida.
I mean, I want you to see a doctor. I would like that known throughout the world. I want you to see a doctor, but I also understand your hesitation.
Because a part of me, this is also me overthinking things. So I'm like, I go in there, I go into the ER, and they're like, oh, we'll do a scan. Everything's fine. And it's great, right? Which is great. But I will have to sit in a Florida ER for 4 or 5 hours.
How many diseases do you want in a day?
Exactly. No one's masked here.
Nope. There's only so many masks you put on your own self, And if
anything, I've gotten the aggressive looks about wearing a mask because I mask up where I go. And it's like that aggressive kind of like, and like, so it's like, and then also medical racism, which is probably more likely to happen in Florida than anywhere else.
It could happen anywhere, but like Florida, you're up there. Yeah. He's like, do you have a black doctor here anywhere in this hospital? I need your black doctor. Just like, osteopath, that's fine. They went to medical school.
And also because it's one of those things where it's kind of like those injuries where like, I don't think I'm concussed because I don't have blurry vision. I didn't pass out or anything like that. But it's like, I'm going to go and get checked.
I will tell you this. I'm going to diagnose you right now.
Okay.
Is you do have a mild concussion.
Okay.
And I can diagnose you because my child a couple of years ago fell off a trampoline. Now, we did go to the doctor and she did not scan him because she's like, there's no blurry, like all of your pupils are not a problem. All of those obvious things to look for were not happening. But he was kind of like dizzy and like couldn't concentrate. And the rule was wait it out till he can. Like it was just like, ice it and like wait it out. That said, please go to a doctor. Don't let me, I don't want to stop you. I'm just like,
you're right.
Calming. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, thank God I have my afro's a little high, so it did cushion it quite a bit, actually. And it's so funny because before I came here, I was going to cut it even lower.
Nope.
And so so that's a good thing. But I am going to go and see someone, but it's just like, I don't want to do it in Florida. But anyway, I guess we
let's get started. Yeah. But if anyone else has some medical diagnoses for Lavetta, let us know.
Absolutely. But also, when this comes out, next week,
girl,
it's going to be after both our birthdays.
Okay. It's going to be this is our birthday week episode.
Happy birthday, Miriam.
Happy birthday, Lavetta.
You're the 26th. I'm the 27th. Right?
Yes. And we will not celebrate together.
Right. We were born in 2010, just so in case you guys were wondering.
2010 sounds good to me. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. But
Lavetta, I think we're 13.
Hey, this 13-year-old making tens of millions of dollars online.
That's right. I know. I'm so jealous.
Let's be those 13s together. But happy birthday in all seriousness. Happy birthday, my darling.
To you.
And now I think I am first this week, and I think I have a doozy for you.
All right.
I love sort of like the ancient women, the ancient stories, because I think we're living in a time where we can like put things in a really great perspective. And so I had this idea, I'm like, should I do Cleopatra? That one's been done a lot, by the way, there's a great series on Netflix that I think you guys should watch, EP'd by Jada Pinkett Smith. I highly, highly recommend. It's so good. It's like, it's not just reenactments. There's like acting. It's really interesting how they did it. Like,
okay. Oh, I should watch this with my children.
Yeah. And it's really good.
They're like really into Egypt right now. Yeah.
Oh, they'll love it. And you know what? It's so interesting because I never really understood the whole story, Mark Anthony and Julie. Like, I never understood that. But also, apparently, no one knows what Cleopatra really looked like.
Yeah, they don't. There's a whole argument of like, what was she black? Was she white? Was she? First of all, who fucking cares? Second of all, like, I mean, I know, but like, she was probably not super white. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Watch this series. They make a decision, which I think is very, very interesting, and it works. So anyway, but I was thinking of Cleopatra, and I was like, no, they've already done that. And I just watched the series, so I was like, who is like someone ancient? That would be a great Notorious woman study, like, figure. So I thought, what about Mata Hari? Right? Because I thought Mata Hari is an ancient woman, but turns out, Miriam, I was wrong. Mata Hari is not an ancient woman.
Oh, she's not? Oh my God. Weren't we just talking about our education and how smart we are? Dude.
Yes, I think it is the name. So let's get into Mata Hari. That is my Notorious woman this week.
I'm excited about today. Okay.
So just a few of my sources for today. It comes from history.com, a history.com article, a Time article by Ray Kavanaugh from 2017, and a video on the YouTube channel called Biographics. Biographics is the name of the YouTube channel, among other sources, but those are my main sources. So let's get into it. So Mata Hari was born Margarita Gertruida Zell on August 7th, 1876, in a small town in northern Holland, to a once prosperous hat merchant.
Okay.
Who went bankrupt. So
this goes against everything
Dutch.
I ever thought. I thought she was like in the 1600s Arabia.
Me too. No.
Wow.
So I will get to that. So Margarita, now when she was, I'm going to call her Margarita or Marguerite. Marguerite, when she was about 13, her father abandoned her and her mother to live with another woman.
What a dick.
So not only did they lose their money, but then he abandoned her and her
What
mother.
Stupid asshole. Okay.
And then 2 years later, her mother died.
Oh, fuck.
So at age 15, the now noticeably beautiful young orphan girl was sent away by relatives to study to become a teacher because, they're like, well, girl, you got to learn how to do something because you got to work for a living. Like,
yeah. Which is, they, sounds like they like paid for her education, which is.
Yeah, I mean,
in those days, standards were like low. Bar was like on the ground. So it's like, oh, we're going to let you eat and we're going to educate you.
But a teacher is also a reputable profession for a young woman who has to make her way.
Right. Yeah. Like it's one of the 3 things you're allowed to do, as a female.
Especially in 1901. So
yeah, like it's that or motherhood. Like
exactly. Now so she went off to become a teacher, to study to become a teacher at 15. And then now by all accounts, she had blossomed. She was a beautiful young girl and her classmates said that she had noticeably darker features. So that just means dark hair is what it means really. Usually to Europeans.
It's so true.
But she was considered attractive.
You're not blonde.
You're not blonde. And so she did. And when you see pictures of her, she just had dark hair and dark eyes. Now, by age 16, though, she was expelled for having an affair with the headmaster. Now, I want to just stop here.
Okay. Yeah, let's stop here.
She did not have an affair with the headmaster.
No, she didn't. She's a child.
She was molested by an adult. Yes. So she was expelled. I don't care if she came on to him.
She could have walked into the room naked saying, I want your penis inside me right now. And it would be his job to say, I'm a grown up, put some clothes on. You're a child. Let's talk.
Yeah. It's his job to be like, girl, I got pants older than you. So let's not do this. Okay. But that's how it was described. Okay. Ugh. So, but by age, so she's back at The Hague, in the Netherlands. It's a major city in the Netherlands. I had to look that up because I was like, The Hague, the prison? What is going on? American educational system, people.
Listen, we tried to learn things. We did, but it's like crawling through mud in this country. All right, go on.
But also thank God for Google.
Yep.
Now,
but also check your sources. You know what I'm saying? Okay, go
check your sources. So she's back in The Hague. She's been expelled and she's just trying to find her way. So she begins dating and she actually, it's basically she started looking at the singles column in the newspaper. And that's how you met people back then.
Okay.
And she met and married a Captain Rudolph McLeod, a man 22 years her senior, and an officer in the Dutch colonial army. They married in July of 1895. Okay. So she is
2 years. Okay.
Yeah. So that makes him 40. 40 married an 18-year-old. So now, but again, that's what a woman had back then. You have to kind of marry well. You have to marry well, right?
That's fine. Does he have a lot of money? Because listen, girl, when you're 40, he's dead. So
Oh, that's true.
Right?
Yeah. That's true. Especially back then. Now, together, they lived at his military post in Indonesia. So, and at the time it was called Dutch East Indies. So she was a very adventurous young woman. So this was very exciting at first. And the two had 2 children eventually. And like I said, living in a foreign place was very exciting to her, but it was also very problematic. Problematic as fuck, actually, because Rudolph turned out to be, big surprise, a guy is 40, married an 18-year-old, not only a serial cheater, but also abusive, physically abusive.
You know what? What a dick. Like, you got this beautiful 18-year-old to marry you. You need to count your fucking blessings, asshole.
But Rudolph also did something else to Marguerite. He also gave her syphilis, which he had contracted from one of his many mistresses, and which she now has it. So it goes on to her children also have it when they give birth. And so they had two children, Norman John, and Louise Jean. And Norman, the little boy, so they had a little boy and a little girl. Norman had a particularly bad case of syphilis as a child. So if things couldn't get any worse with this whole situation, the only available treatment was with mercury for syphilis at the time.
Oh, no.
And a local doctor...
Why don't they just chop off his penis?
Not
the child, but the grown-up, the man. Maybe if they chopped it off, I would feel better. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, because he's an officer, and yeah.
So cut it, slice right through. Go ahead.
Yeah, the poor little baby, he had a particularly bad case of it. So a local doctor actually overdosed him, and he died at age 2.
Oh,
so fuck Rudolph forever. Yeah, he better be glad he got away with his life.
Listen. Yeah. I don't believe in heaven and hell, but I kind of want him to be in hell. That's what I want. Okay.
Yeah. Now, apparently this was the last straw. If the beatings and the giving me syphilis wasn't bad enough, and then giving it to our children, then the child dying was just the last straw. So the two headed back to Europe and separated and ultimately divorced in 1902. So newly divorced, and in a need, in a way to support her child, that is. God, I can't speak today. I'm blaming the concussion. Anyway.
No, girl, me too. Yeah. Your concussion is affecting me. Okay, go on.
But in need of a way to support herself and now her little girl.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine Rudolph would be very generous or even have officers don't often have a lot of money unless they come from money. But so she migrated to Paris in 1905 and reinvented herself as a striptease dancer who claimed to be of Far Eastern descent.
Oh, my God. And it worked so well because I just found out she isn't right now. Wow.
Yep. Now, while in Indonesia and Malaysia, Marguerite acquired a superficial knowledge of Indian and Javanese dances. And because white people really aren't very good at, they're actually very good at not bothering to know too much about non-white people. She was able to pass as an exotic dancer of an unknown exotic origins.
Yo, white people are stupid. Okay.
Yeah. Also, this is the era of the Francis Belle Époque era, which was from 1871 to 1914, and it coincided with our Gilded Age.
Oh, okay.
Here in America.
Yes,
now,
yes.
Yeah. So, but unlike the Gilded Age, which was a lot more reserved in America, the Belle Époque, the French were doing it like the French like to do it and getting to do lots of sex.
Yeah.
It's also a very prosperous economy. So, things were a little bit more free. And again, the French are a lot more, I think, just sexually free. They don't really have the puritanical, obviously there's always a part of society that has that, particularly the upper echelons. But, that wasn't the case here in France, during this era. And particularly in Paris. Yes. So there was a lot of room. There's very great energy in the air and plenty of room for something that seemed exotic, wild, and free. So they ate up this whole shtick she had going.
Nice. Get a girl. Trick them all. Get your money.
So she went from having private dances in homes to packed dance halls and opera houses from Russia to France and began touring all over Europe. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And she telling the story of how she was born in a sacred Indian temple and taught ancient dances by a priestess who gave her the name of Matahari, meaning Eye of the Dawn in Malay. Matahari.
Stop. She's a genius. I didn't know this till now.
Girl. I was like, I don't know if this is problematic as fuck or if I'm impressed because this is a scam.
I know.
This is a scam. I love
And
it.
like all of India is like, what?
Yeah, it's like if you actually met an Indonesian person or any person, they'd be like, what? That doesn't mean, that sounds like gibberish.
Yeah.
The Europeans are like, oh, she's so exotic. Ew. Now her career, and just so you know, so the nature of her dance is that she would often dance in like very sheer, like flowing gowns, and often she would end up fully nude. So,
well, make your money,
but it's like the seduction of the veils, but it's not real. It's just like a white lady's interpretation of the dance of the veils.
Oh, I mean, honestly, this reminds me of like how I dance like alone, like I know exactly what she does. I do it too, but I don't know that I'm right. You know what I'm saying?
It's like if I came up with like, oh yeah, this is a Middle Eastern dance of the Sadiq, and they're like, have you ever been to the Middle East? Oh, I watched a couple documentaries on Arabia.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to tell you what play this was from, but I had a monologue that I used all the time in my 20s in New York, all the time, and it got me a lot of jobs. Like it was like the monologue that like I was like playing a character that was like, I used a Southern accent. I don't know why. And I was like, I want to go into these and I want to move. I could quote it, but I'm not gonna, because I do not want to give it away because I am so embarrassed. And it worked. And I would like, and then I'm going to break out and I'm going to shimmy my hips. Why am I Southern? And I would do like, I would like dance because I was like, I'm a mover. I'm going to show them I can move. Listen, Matahari and I have like a little more in common than I care to admit.
Except Miriam, she made a lot of money doing this.
Yeah, no, I made no money. Those jobs paid me almost nothing. Okay.
It also kind of reminds me of like, how, is it Alec Baldwin's wife has been accused of pretending to be Spanish?
Yes.
So this has been going on forever.
Yes. It's what you do, make your name. I don't know.
I mean, I don't mind this scam. I don't mind because she's scamming like ignorant white people who think that they're better than these people.
And like, honestly, they have the money to throw at her and they are entertained. She'll be like, listen, I'm an entertainer.
I mean, she's showing her body. So listen, they're getting a show. Now, her career, so she went on like this. She was extremely successful for about a decade. And basically till the end of the Belle Epoque era. So it ended, like I said, 1914. And then, soon after we're getting into war. So she also began losing ground to younger and more athletic imitators because other people started being like, oh, is that what I want? So, so it's just 10 years a good run, though. 10 years is a really good run for something that you made up.
I mean, right? I don't know. That's just save your money,
There's that. So by now she was well known, of course. She was still considered very beautiful. And she was also fluent in German, French, Italian, Spanish, and Malay.
Holy crap.
So and English. So she was eventually able to find success as a courtesan, which a lot of people think is a prostitute. It's not.
It's not.
It can involve sex, but it doesn't always. But I mean, it's you have courtesan is basically you have short-term relationships with wealthy men who may buy you a condo or home or so it's yeah.
I knew a girl who was a sort of a modern day courtesan.
Yeah, I think they're still out there.
Yeah. And I remember she was explaining it. It's just like I don't sleep with them if I don't want to.
Yeah.
But they buy me things.
They buy you things. So
but my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, was like, no. And I was like, fine.
Yeah, because you can also get into like dicey situations. I'm sure.
I think I don't highly recommend it, but
yeah, and even though she's categorized as like a sex fiend and she had confided to a friend that actually after her experience with Rudolph and syphilis, she didn't really find sex that appealing, but she realized that it could be a way to get the things that she needed in life. Like many women,
a lot of women figure that out.
Yeah, so she became a successful courtesan, seducing wealthy and powerful men from multiple nations, including high-ranking government officials. And so with the outbreak of World War I, her catalog of lovers began to include high-ranking military officers, also of various nationalities.
Okay.
Now, in February 1917, French authorities arrested her for espionage and imprisoned her
What? Okay.
because again, she's from a neutral country. She speaks all these languages and she has, many different friends, quote unquote, from
Right.
but it's wartime. So the rules change. Okay. Now, again, because she was from a neutral country, she was able to cross borders with comparatively little hassle. And she's a beautiful woman. But during wartime, that is going to raise some suspicions, particularly from the British and the French.
Right.
So, like I said, before the war, most people would say this woman traveling around by herself is a little morally suspect. But during the war, it's like, is she a spy? Let's see. So around 1914-15, her career kind of wraps up. Okay. But by 1915, among her many lovers was an agent for the Kaiser's Secret Service, a man by the name of Karl Kromer, who offered her, because he realized, she gets into certain rooms, in the room where it happened because of her beauty and like she's she's basically like what people thought. They thought actresses were sex workers. Basically, that's what she is. So she gets in a lot of rooms. And so he offered her 20,000 francs if she would seduce Allied officers and report back.
Oh, girl.
Now, to Germany, to the Kaiser. According to the official French record, this is when she became Agent H21 and began spying on the Allied forces for cash.
Oh, shit. Okay.
This is according to the French record. But in more recent times, in declassified records, it suggests that she actually declined Kromer's offer, but kept the 20,000 francs because she felt like it was payment for having her furs and jewels confiscated by the Germans.
That feels right. Get your money. They shouldn't have taken your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
honestly,
she goes
like,
back to
why? I'm just wondering why I thought she was the 16th century.
I did too.
Arabian.
I think it's
beauty spy.
I think when they show her in films, they put her in the image of like, what's the girl that danced and had wanted John the Baptist's head or something? I'm a heathen at this point. Anyway, somebody out there is yelling at me. Anyway, it's in the Bible somewhere. This young girl,
I'm Jewish.
Like
I
dance.
don't know.
I know it's, and I think it might be in the Jewish part of the Bible.
Listen, I had apples and honey. I said a prayer. Leave me alone.
I think it's in the Torah part of the Bible, the Old Testament.
I don't know her. Yeah.
Anyway,
Baruch Hashem, bless you. Okay, go on.
But I think it's because of that and Delilah, all those things. So she's kind of like thrown in with all those women. So he offered her the money. She was like, okay, yeah. And then she's like, I'm taking this money. I'm out, bitches. So she goes back to France, to Paris, her home, her home away from home. And on her way there, the ship docks at an English port where English officers, again, this is during the war. So English officers question her. And this one English officer wrote, quote, she speaks French, English, Italian, Dutch, and probably German. Handsome, bold type of woman, well and fashionably dressed, not above suspicion, end quote.
Okay.
So she goes on her way, but that officer who questioned her also sends his thoughts to the French counter-espionage unit at the Ministry of War. So they're on the lookout for her. So she goes to Paris and she's there. And by 1916, she's still having fun. And again, she's dating all kinds of men, right? Whoever's going to buy her furs, whatever. And she realizes she's being followed. The French are following her because they suspect her of spying for the Germans. And so they were going through her stuff, like following her. And now around this time, she meets this man by the name of Vladimir de Maslov, a decorated but wounded, and he's from an aristocratic family, but he probably doesn't have a lot of money, Russian captain. So he was slightly blind in one eye. And apparently he was like one of the loves of her life. So it
okay.
became a genuine connection. He proposed, but he had to go back to the Western Front to fight. So in an effort to stay close to him where he was fighting, she talked to a friend of hers for some advice. And she got an offer from a former French lover who gave her an opportunity to become an agent for France to spy on German targets in neutral countries.
Okay.
And in exchange, he offered her safe travel so she could go and see Vladimir while he was on the front, and 1 million francs, which would be $3 million in today's money.
Oh, get your money.
So she was like, that sounds like a plan. Let's do that. Because it's not just $20K. It's $3 million.
Yeah, listen. Like, I wouldn't spy for Germany because, well, I'm Jewish, and in those days, that was not.
No,
right.
He's offering her to spy for France.
France, let's get our money and let's save some souls, you know?
Yeah. And she's got a daughter still to take care of. So,
yeah.
But it turns out this offer from France was really a bit of a lie.
Oh.
So she kept writing the officer. So they send her off. She keeps writing him when she goes to Spain. She heads to Spain. She's waiting for her orders. Nothing happens. So while traveling, she was questioned and detained by the British. Now, she told them, because they were trying to decide if she was really who she says she is, or I think they thought she might have been a German spy. So they can't really, because again, things were different back then. Official documents were different back then. So she admitted, she's like, okay, I'm working for France. I'm a French agent. So the British are like, okay, well, let's send off to France to see if this is true. So they sent back. Now, again, her friend, who's her former lover, is like, I'm going to recruit you. His boss was a man by the name of Ledoux. So when the British send off to France to find out, to corroborate her assertion that she's a French agent, Ledoux replies back, quote, understand nothing, send Matahari back to Spain, end quote.
Whoa. Okay. Why?
So they left her hanging. Now the British, because people who work in counterintelligence tend to be very intelligent.
Yes.
They figured that the French roped her in with this offer of saying that she was a spy because they suspected her of being a German spy. And they suspected that the French just wanted the British to solve their problem.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So the Brits let her go.
Why? Yeah. Okay.
They're like, my name's Bennett, ain't in it. Ain't got nothing to do with us. Okay. Yeah. So they let her go.
Okay.
And she still doesn't know that that's probably what's happening, though. Only they know that.
So what does she think?
So what she still thinks she's a French spy. She thinks they let her go because it was corroborated by the French.
Oh.
So she goes on to Spain and she's still waiting for orders. But again, she's thinking about that $3 million. She's like, that is a lot of money, right? Yeah. So she meets and she seduces a man by the name of Major Arnold Calais, a German diplomat. So she manages, after a couple nights in bed, a couple times rolling around, she gets some vital information about something that would help the French troops out. Okay. And so she sends off a message to Ledoux about this thing. And it seems to be valuable information, but he just ignores her. So she talks to another friend, a former lover of her, who's like, actually, I think that's probably good information. So could you get more? So she goes back to Calais and she's asking more questions. He gets suspicious all of a sudden, because it's one thing to say it, in coitus or whatever, but there's another thing for her to specifically ask, because she's not a trained spy.
Right.
So Calais gets suspicious, and according to American journalist Russell Warren Howe, who claimed that he got access to records in 1985 that basically corroborated this is what happened. Calais, the German diplomat who's in cahoots with Germany, using a code that they knew the French had already cracked, transmitted a message identifying Matahari as a spy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So then,
as a spy for them against France.
Yes. So crap, that's bad. So then what happens?
That sealed her fate. So the French arrested her in a military trial conducted in July of that year of 1916. She was accused of revealing details of the Allies' new weapon, the tank, resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of soldiers. She was convicted and sentenced to death. And the following year, on October 15th, 1917, she was killed by firing squad. And she refused a blindfold. And there's a lot that goes on in the trial. She's like, no, this is what happened. And they're like, no, you're lying. Now, some people think, some say that there is evidence that she acted as a German spy and for a time as a double agent for the French. But the Germans had written her off as an ineffective agent who produced little intelligence of value.
Oh, shit. Oh, God.
Many historians now feel that her military trial was, riddled with bias and circumstantial evidence. And it's probable that the French authorities trumped her up as, quote, the greatest woman spy of the century as a distraction for the huge losses that the French army was suffering on the Western Front.
Oh, my God.
Now, I wonder
under that bus. Yeah.
I wonder if Ledoux had not ignored what the information she was giving him, if that had helped the French out. And he ignored it.
That's totally what happened.
Yeah.
And then they were like, liar, she's a witch, burn her. Like, that's totally what happened.
Yeah. Now, according to the Time article that I read, by 1917 also, the French military was war-weary, morale was low, and some military divisions had even begun to mutiny. So the author contends that the Allied side and the French especially needed someone to blame, to punish, to defeat. So they found a perfect scapegoat in a, quote, immoral foreigner with a sensuous walk who had shamelessly seduced men from all armies, end quote.
Ain't nothing like murdering a prostitute in their eyes as making the world a better place, even though these gentlemen want to have sex with her. It's a fucked up world.
Now, a little bit more. I'm almost finished here. Now, some historians also contend that regarding the whole, the military thing. So, let's say there's evidence that she was a spy because the guy offered her $20K, even she took it, and never did anything, right?
And walked away. Yeah.
But a lot of them contend that she was little more than a gossip with a thing for officers on both sides, and because of that, she was demonized. And her, so the legend of Mata Hari surpasses the woman and what actually happened. Now, in view of Julie Wheelwright, the author of The Fatal Lover, Mata Hari and the Myth of Women in Espionage, Mata Hari, quote, symbolized women's danger, their treacherous desires hidden beneath their rallying cry as mothers of the nation or self-sacrificing nurses, end quote. And so it's just a way to further buy into that idea that women are dubious by nature, and duplicitous and mysterious and can't be trusted, and just, they take a man's power when they bed them. So now, in 1930, though, so shortly after, not that long after she was killed, she was executed, the German government exonerated her in 1930.
Really?
But France, the nation that executed her, has shown a little bit more reluctance, and they haven't really declassified the documents that they have. So a lot of the documents that I got, that my sources got their information from is from the other, from the Americans or the British. And the Germans, not
France.
Not France. Yeah. So it just remains to be seen if it sounds like she was just a woman having a good time. And this is where you do have to understand, I think sometimes, how you're perceived. Like, I keep going back to what that British guy said, a bold type of woman.
Yeah.
Well-dressed. Yeah. That irks many men when you seem confident. When other men seem to fall prey to you, it makes them, their misogyny on full alert. I don't think she was a saint, because the fact that I think she's a bit of a scammer, obviously, pretending to be.
She is a scammer. But I'm okay with it. Like, I think she had this career where she was scamming the shit out of people, like sort of innocently, where she was like dancing and been like, yes, I was born in a sacred cave in India, whatever. But like, and then it was like, oh, there's a war, better pivot. She just pivoted.
Yeah. And also, I think something else is being missed here. Did they still think that she was exotic and from the Middle East or India somewhere? So could it be bigotry?
Well, yeah, it could be.
Like,
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Because now we know that she made it up, but did they know that she made it up? And did they just think, like I said, foreigner? That was in one of the quotes, the foreigner.
Yeah,
so
I you know what? I think you're absolutely right. And that's why she was so easy. It was so easy for them just throw her under the bus, like either like work for us and help us or like fuck off, as opposed to like, oh, you're one of us. Cool.
Yeah, if we can't use you, then we're definitely going to blame you. Like, I mean, they said that she, in one report, that she was responsible for up to 50,000 troops. That's not one woman's fault.
No. That doesn't feel right.
A woman who was not trained as a spy? Come on.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, if it's true, that was their fault. Yeah. But I don't think it's true. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So that is Mata Hari.
That was amazing and fascinating and a whole story I've never heard.
Wow.
And I feel like I've seen movies with like the character of Mata Hari.
Because I think
I
feel like those, like I vaguely have this memory of like a black and white or something.
Yes.
Of like,
yes.
This woman and she's mysterious and like you said, and the name, you're like, oh, she's not European. But no, she's totally European. She's Dutch.
Yeah.
Like she just made it up.
I mean, 100%.
When scamming goes wrong, I tell you.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
That's a good title for this episode, maybe.
Maybe. Who's your notorious woman for me this week?
Okay, so speaking of like a world I know very little about, so who I am going to talk about today is Rani Lakshmibai. I listened to the pronunciation, so I think I said it right, but it could be wrong. Now, here is what I will say. She is Indian. And she has I have a
She's
story.
actually Indian.
She's actually Indian. I'm reading a book that takes place in India. Like it's like a murder mystery book that's really fun. And I'm learning a lot. And apparently there's this woman who did a sort of incredible feats of things that I'd never heard of. And I was like, well, we got to talk about this now. But here's the deal. There's a lot of cultural references and things that I don't know a huge amount. So if I mess something up, I apologize now and feel free to tell me and I will fix it. Like I could do this whole thing over again if I'm wrong. Okay. But I did the best that I could and I want to bring her to attention because American education is not good.
Yeah,
so,
well, it depends on the state. We'll tell you. Depends on the state and how much money you got.
There you go. So Rani Lakshmibai, she was born named Manikarnika Tambe. They called her Manu. Okay. Now, yes. So her birth name is Manikarnika Tambe. They called her Manu. Okay. She was born November 19th. Okay. So already it's messy. 1828 or 1835. What?
Oh.
Exactly.
Okay.
In the town, what was called Benares, which is now called Varanasi, into a Karhada Brahmin family, which is a high caste, right? They're the priests.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so her father was Moropant Tambe and her mother was Bhagirathi Sapre. So her mother died when she was 4. Her father was a commander during the War of Kalyan-Pranth. Now, again, right, we're not taught any of these wars or journeys, so I don't know exactly what that means. But he worked for Peshwa Baji Rao II of Bithur district. So Peshwa knew her as a child and called her Chahabili, which means beautiful and lively and cheerful, which gives you an idea of like the kind of kid she was. She was educated at home and she was taught to read and write, which was not the case for every girl in that era and that part of the world. She was a lot more independent in her childhood than most kids were. And in her studies, they taught her shooting, horsemanship, fencing, and there is, something called Malakamba. Have you heard of Malakamba?
No. Sounds like Mortal Kombat. I mean,
it's really cool, right? It kind of is.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a traditional sport, which it's like gymnastics, aerial yoga, wrestling, and there's like ropes and poles and like, it's cool. You can like Google this. There's like videos of it. It's amazing. And she did that with friends. She contrasted a lot of the patriarchal cultural expectations for women in India's society at the time. She was known for her unique perspectives, and she had courage to fight against social norms, even in front of society. So she would go to gatherings and things and say her mind, and it was okay, if not like unusual. So she married the Maharaja of Jhansi. His name, so very high up there. So, but my guess, this is how she got away with doing what she wanted, and I think her father was fine with it and probably like adored her, and allowed it, because you would still be marriageable because they were that high up, right? A lot of times, I think in history, you sort of dumb down your daughters so that they're marriageable.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So his name, Gangadhar Rao Newalkar, they married May 1842. And after this, they called her Lakshmi Bai, which was in honor of the Hindu goddess Devi Lakshmi. And there was a tradition of women being given a new name after marriage. Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So that's why, like, she's actually known as Rani of Jhansi. Like, if you're going to look her up, you'd go Rani of Jhansi, even though that's not her birth name. So she was, she had given birth to a baby boy in September of 1851, which I think is interesting because they married in 1842 and many years passed. But so they name him Damodar Rao, and he died 4 months later. It just says, I know, it's just a chronic illness. I mean, man. So then the Maharaja adopted a child. So her husband, they did it like through him, named Anand Rao, which was the son of his cousin. And they renamed him Damodar Rao the day before the Maharaja died.
Oh.
Right?
Because it sounds like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it sounds like they may have been having some fertility issues.
Yeah.
Which is why it was so long, and then their son died. Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. But,
and my guess is that he was dying and they needed an heir to legitimize her.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, and they adopted, my guess is pretty strong here. So they adopted in front of the British political officer who was given a letter from the Maharaja instructing that the child be treated with respect and that the government of Jhansi should be given to his widow for her lifetime. Because, of course, the British were actually in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year was this again?
This was 1853.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he died that November. So because the child was an adopted son, the British East India Company obviously thought they had all the control and power. They applied the doctrine of lapse, and which rejected this child's claim to the throne and annexed the state to its territories.
Of course they did.
Right? They're like, wait, I'm a white man. It's my turn to speak always. So she freaked out, and apparently she cried out, I'm not going to try to say this in the native tongue because that's just offensive.
Don't do that, girl.
But which the translation I will say is she cries out, I shall not surrender my Jhansi. In March 1854, they gave her an annual pension of 60,000, I think, rupees, and was ordered to leave the palace and the fort. Okay. So according to Vishnu Bhatt Gadsi, she kept her focus. So she would exercise daily. I'm not exactly sure where she went, but she did leave. But every day she would weightlift, wrestle, steeplechasing. Again, what? So steeplechasing, did you know this? It's distant horse racing where you're required to jump diverse fence and ditched obstacles. Maybe other people know this. I don't know.
Oh, I've seen that in movies, but I didn't know that's the name of it. That's interesting.
I didn't know either. I thought it was like, I've seen that in like, I don't know, on TV when I was 12 on Channel 7, you know? But she just like did that. And she apparently, this is how it was written. She did it all before breakfast. Okay.
Of course she did.
Like me too. No, just kidding. She's much more skilled than I am, no doubt. So on May 10th, 1857, the Indian Rebellion started in Meerut. So when news of the rebellion reached Jhansi, the Rani asked, and they refer to her as the Rani. Okay. She is the Rani of Jhansi, which I think means like, I'm not 100% sure. I tried to figure it out. I think it's the title.
Yeah, it sounds like her title.
Yeah. So she asked the British political officer, Captain Alexander Skene, for permission to raise a body of armed men for her protection. Okay. So he agreed to this. So the city was relatively calm, even though the regional unrest was not. This was the summer of 1857. But what she did, she conducted something called a Haldi Kumkum, which is a social gathering in India, which married women exchanged turmeric and vermilion powder as a symbol of their married status and wishing for their husbands' long lives. So it's like a ceremony. She did it with pomp in front of all the women of Jhansi to provide assurance to her subjects and to also convince them that the British were cowards and to not be afraid of them. So we have a theme today of playing kind of two sides, right? She's no fool. So she was nervous to rebel against the British at this point. In June of 1857, the rebels of the 12th Bengal Native Infantry seized the Star Fort of Jhansi, which contained treasure. And after persuading the British to lay down their arms by promising them no harm, they then broke their word and massacred 40 to 60 European officers of the garrison, along with their wives and children.
Oh.
So, yeah. I mean, these
gangsta.
Listen, don't kill, but these people are angry because their land has been stolen.
Yeah.
So they don't know if she was involved in this massacre. They still don't know. It's still a subject of debate. Like an army doctor, Thomas Lowe, wrote of her, quote, Jezebel of India, the young Rani upon whose head rested the blood of the slain. So they're definitely blaming her.
Jezebel.
Right? What a word when we don't know what else to say. You know?
Yeah. They want to say harlot, but Jezebel
Right.
is closest to it. Yeah.
It's a little more appropriate, in the home in front of the children,
Yeah.
So 4 days after the massacre, the British left Jhansi after getting a lot of money from Rani, because they threatened to blow up the palace where she lived. So I think she just went to another palace, is my guess, or I'm not sure. Again, I'm a little murky on some of the specific details. But after this happened, the only authority in the city was her. So she assumed control. She wrote to Major Erskine, who was the commissioner of the Saugor Division, which was a region of British India, which explained the events that had led her to sort of take over at this moment. So he responded saying, please manage the district for the British government until we can get the British there. Like, you can have this for like a minute. We'll be right there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's division now within themselves. So the Rani's forces defeated an attempt by the mutineers to assert the claim to the throne of a rival prince, Sadashiv Rao, who was the nephew of the Maharaja, her husband, who had died.
Okay.
Who had been captured and imprisoned. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's so complicated. So basically, there was an invasion of Jhansi by other forces that wanted to split it up between themselves.
Right. Gotcha.
Now, this happened, so the Rani appealed to the British for aid because she needs help. But at this point, the British were like, I think you're responsible for a massacre against us. So they did not reply.
Oh, the double cross.
Yeah. Okay.
The ghosting of these women.
Yeah, that feels right. So she set up a foundry to cast cannon to be used on the walls of the fort, and assembled forces, including some of the former feudatories of Jhansi and elements of the mutineers. She basically like took other people who were like unsure. Some of the mutineers, some of the other people, and they were able to defeat the invaders in August 1857. Now, she was still trying to hold the Jhansi, according to this, on behalf of the British, or at least that's what she was saying.
Okay.
So from August 1857 to January 1858, Jhansi, under her rule, was at peace. So the British had announced that troops would be sent there to maintain control, but the fact that none arrived strengthened the position of a party of her advisors who wanted independence from British rules, right? So I'm thinking she's still like on the fence, right? The British did arrive in March, and they found it very well defended. The fort had heavy guns. Now, according to one source, a man, Hugh Rose, who was commanding the British forces, they demanded the surrender of the city, and if it was refused, it would be destroyed. That same source claims that after much deliberation, the Rani issued a proclamation. She says, quote, "We fight for independence. In the words of Lord Krishna, we will, if we are victorious, enjoy the fruits of victory. If defeated and killed on the battle, we shall surely earn eternal glory and salvation." Okay. So now she's like,
I'm about that life. Bring it, bitches.
Let's do this. Now, some sources say that they didn't demand for surrender. But
it's the British. They demanded surrender.
Exactly. Yes. So she defended Jhansi against British troops when Sir Hugh Rose besieged Jhansi on March 23rd, 1858. The bombardment of Jhansi began on March 24th, but was met with heavy return fire, and the damaged defenses were repaired. So then the defenders sent appeals for help from, so Tatya Tope was a notable commander in this rebellion, and he had an army of more than 20,000. And they were sent to help relieve Jhansi, but they did not win. During the battle with Tatya Tope's forces, part of the British forces continued the siege, and by April 2nd, it was decided to launch an assault by a breach of the walls. So the British were winning. Yeah. So she ran. She knew she's gonna go. So she withdrew from the palace to the fort. She decided to join Tatya, and basically that resistance in the city was useless. That was not working.
Okay.
So according to tradition, again, right? Try to figure this out. She jumped on the back of her horse with her son from the fort, and they to escape. Now they survived, but the horse died. She was surrounded by guards, and the escort included many warriors, just like kind of running away. So she decamped to Kalpi with a few guards, where she joined additional rebel forces, including Tatya Tope. Now they occupy the town of Kalpi and prepared to defend it. So I think they lost Jhansi essentially. Then they're trying to defend Kalpi. Unfortunately, on May 22nd, I mean, I think we all know where this is going. The British forces attacked Kalpi, and Rani herself commanded the forces against the British, but they were defeated, and they fled again. Now they came to a town called Gwalior, and they joined the Indian forces who now held the city. So, there's a lot happening. I had no idea there was so much uprising.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just like, get the hell out of our country.
Yes. Dude.
Oh, yeah. People have always been fighting. Yeah.
Yeah. Britain, come on.
Colonialism and slavery is not a choice, people. People are always fighting.
I know. It's like, you did not come in to save us. We did not need saving.
Yeah.
So they tried to occupy the strategic Gwalior fort, but they were unsuccessful. And once again, they lost. But she was leading. She tried to, at this point, she was trying to convince other rebel leaders to prepare to defend Gwalior against British attack. But nothing worked. So on June 17th, in Kota Ki Sarai near Gwalior, a British squadron fought the large Indian force commanded by Rani. She was trying to leave the area, but the 8th Hussars, which was a British squadron, charged into the Indian force. They slaughtered 5,000 Indian soldiers, including, quote, any Indian over the age of 16. They charged right through the encampment, and according to an eyewitness, Rani put on a sewer's uniform, which is a Indian uniform, and attacked one of the Hussars, but she was unhorsed and wounded, probably by his saber. Shortly afterwards, as she sat bleeding by the roadside, she recognized the soldier and fired at him with a pistol, whereupon he fired at her. So she's very wounded. According to another tradition, she was dressed as a cavalry leader, which is similar, and was also badly wounded. But according to this legend, she did not want the British to capture her body, so she told a hermit to burn it. I don't know what actually happened, but I do know that after her death, a few local people did cremate her body.
Yeah, because they would have put it on display.
Yes. So she was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So the British then captured Gwalior after 3 days. And in the British report of this battle, Hugh Rose, who was the British commanding officer, commented that Rani Lakshmibai is, quote, personable, clever, and beautiful, and she is, quote, the most dangerous of all Indian leaders, end quote. Now, some sources say her son actually survived, that a lot of the survivors kind of went off into the sort of the forest and the fields, and they created encampments, and they survived there. They hid there for like 12 years. And then eventually, not all of them stayed surviving, but her son made a deal with the British and was able to continue living his life. And that is what I know of Rani of Jhansi. Let me rephrase: the Rani of Jhansi.
The Rani of Jhansi. Wow.
Yeah. So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
She's definitely like a legend, and she's very, very important. And so I feel like when I was researching, I was battling like legends versus you know, and also like how the history was written down, which is why like I started with an excuse. Like, I have some ideas, but like, if you know more, please tell me. I will rephrase.
And also, hashtag not historian. So
hashtag not historians.
Yeah. The whole purpose is to get intrigued, learn a little something, laugh, hopefully, and then go and do like real research and find
exactly.
out. Yeah.
But I was like, wow, she has a whole thing with billions of people know about her, but America does not. So let's learn.
That's amazing. The Rani of Jhansi?
The Rani of Jhansi.
I love that. Thank you.
You're
welcome.
Wow. What a day.
Yeah, I mean, we all know women can, kill and defend their territory or be scammers.
So many options. Well, it's so interesting because, we're like, well, women are weak, women aren't strong. That's why men need to do all but listen, because she was growing up in a world where she did swordsmanship and horseback riding and all this stuff, like, of course she was strong enough to do this.
Yeah, of course.
Like, you just don't, you're just putting corsets on their bodies and binding their feet. Then yeah, they can't. But like, if you don't do all these things, and, telling them that they belong somewhere else and putting it in their heads, well, then they won't be able to. But if you do the opposite, they can do anything.
I mean, and I also think that the world knows that, men especially know that. That is why they don't put pockets in women's dresses, because they don't want us to hide weapons.
Mm-hmm. That is why.
There's no reason why there shouldn't be pockets in every dress. Anyway, I digress.
There's no dress that needs to be made without a pocket. Like if you're making a dress right now and there's no pockets, put a pocket in it.
Put a pocket in it.
Like, it's not that hard.
It's just, but no, that is amazing, amazing story. Like, I just love how both the women today had some cojones.
Yes.
They both had like chutzpah. How do you say it?
Chutzpah. I got you, girl. Chutzpah. Okay. Yeah, you can do the cha. Okay.
Chutzpah. Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I like that. We all know that women can do what men can do. And most of the time better. So this is why they need patriarchy, because they're like, woman, I am better than you.
I know, right?
Are you though?
Or did you set up a system in which you can hide? Yeah.
So, but thank you so much. That was amazing. That wraps up our birthday edition. Episode of the Notorious Women podcast. Guys, remember to follow us on all the things. Also, if you want to help us out, please give us a 5-star review in the Apple Store or anywhere you listen to your podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. If you can leave a review, please do that. Please give us a 5-star review. Also, to remember to like us on social media. Remember to copy the link for our podcast and share it with your friends and your family. Don't just tell them about it. Actually, actively just copy the link and send it to them. Text it to them, and email it to them.
It's super easy. Like, I'm technically terrible. I'm a terrible technical person, but I can do that.
No, she is not. She is killing it with our social media, and I'm going to actually let Miriam tell you about, or step aside and have Miriam. I'm going to step aside and let Miriam tell you about how you can also support us on our social media platforms.
All right, y'all. Instagram. Okay. It's so easy. It's Notorious Women Podcast. Come join us. It's fun. I find funny things and also poignant things, moments. Also, we have a TikTok page. It's new, but come like us. We like it.
Yeah.
Oh, and you can email us too, especially after this episode. So it's notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. So you can email us thoughts, ideas, or you failed utterly. Here's the true story. Cool. We'll redo it. You can also DM us at Notorious Women Podcast on Instagram. Yeah. We also have a Patreon.
Yes. And that is patreon.com/notoriouswomen. And that's patreon.com, patreon.com/notoriouswomen. Come and leave us some cash if you want to support the show in that way. We'd really, really appreciate it. But most importantly, bring yourselves. Listen every week, download, subscribe, and tell your friends. That part's free. So,
yeah.
But, money's always good, but we also want you to come as you are and come for free. So,
Spread the love. Yeah.
Spread the love. And with that, happy birthday again, Miriam.
Happy birthday, Lavetta.
Thank you. And happy birthday to any of our listeners out there. And guys, we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.